Well, let's take a look at Tim Stutzle. And before anybody says anything about the audio, neighbors mowing his lawn, so if that could be heard in the background, that's what it is. Sometimes there's neighborhood stuff that I don't know how long it's going to go on for, so I'm like, I got to get the show on the road here. And there's nothing soundproof in this house, so as the kids well know. Anyways, we're going to talk about Tim Stutzle, and I'm wearing a Detroit jersey because I have a funny feeling he'll end up in Detroit. And, the interesting thing is this is where you see some difference of opinion when it comes to who may go where in the draft. He's 6'7", 187 pounds. He can play center, he can play the wing. And it looks like at the World Juniors, he played on the wing. And definitely, I could see him being one of those players who starts in the wing in the NHL and then they transition him to center. But he is one of three potential first rounders out of Germany. So Germany is finally emerging as a power in hockey, which 35 years ago I couldn't understand why that wasn't a thing. Where I thought, Germany is in a perfect spot. You look at the rest of Europe, they should be a little more competitive. Now it's up to Britain to join up too, the UK to start getting back into the hockey thing. Because if you look far enough back in the Olympics, you're like, hey, look, Great Britain was pretty good at hockey at one point. And it just wasn't. So, well, what happened is the rest of the world got better, and apparently the Brits either lost interest or they just weren't matching that same slope that the rest of the world was. So Stutzle's number 3 on the hockey prospect list. He's number 2 on International Scouting Services. Elite Prospects has him at 8. So Elite Prospects sees something in his game that they're not as sold on him, or they're just higher on other prospects. And with how deep this draft is, it is easy to be higher on one prospect than another and just say it's kind of a gut feeling. The average across all of it is number 3. So Stutzle should go in the top 5. But again, there isn't really a consensus outside of one where Lafreniere it's his draft. Now, his strengths, shooting accuracy, teamwork. So yesterday somebody said, what does teamwork mean? Well, I get what teamwork is. If you say a guy's really got really solid teamwork, to me that means he's not thinking about himself first. That means when you see him out on the ice, you're saying, you know what, this guy's a selfless player. He's willing to take a hit that another guy doesn't. Maybe he's making those little plays in the corner that won't result in a point. But you know what? It's going to help teammates out. Maybe when he has a chance at a shot, but he thinks, my line mate's got a better chance at a shot, he passes it. And to me, that's what teamwork is. It is not thinking about yourself first. So I guess selflessness could be what it could be described as, but that's how I read it anyways. Passing, agility, acceleration. Now the skating part, at least according to Elite Prospects, they have a skating just a little bit below. And the one thing I noticed in some of the scouting I was reading on him is that his skating is good. So when you get into the reports down here, good skater, he may not have that acceleration on the same level to that same speed as a Lafreniere or a Byfield does. But again, we'll see at the NHL level how that works out. Now, where I think part of the reason for Byfield being ranked higher than Stutzle on some of these lists is Stutzle's 6 foot. He's not as big a player as Byfield, who's 6'4". Scouts will highly rate guys who are taller. Highly rate guys who are bigger. Marco Rossi, for example, is 5'8" and 3/4. So he's not likely to go in the top 3, maybe in part because he's shorter. And we always look back at these drafts and we see guys like DeBrincat, and someday we'll be talking about Cole Caulfield that way as well and saying, why didn't a team draft him earlier? Because there is still that belief that your taller, bigger player is going to mean a better player as well. So Stutzle may very well be below Byfield on the overall average, in part because of his size. Now, where the benefit is with Stutzle, if you're going to draft him, and one of the reasons why Yzerman might be looking at him and saying, I want to get him even if I'm drafting at 1, which was the rumor, he's been playing for Adler Mannheim in the DEL. So he's been playing against men, and he's done well. 41 games, 7 goals, 27 assists, 34 points, and he was the DEL Rookie of the Year this year. So he's playing against men in Europe. That's an advantage. That is absolutely an advantage to be playing against men rather than against junior age players. Now, the trick is this. That means you're more ready to come into the NHL, but you're still going to have to develop in the National Hockey League to NHL level competition. So he may start out as the better rookie next year. We may be talking about Stutzle as being a fantastic rookie next year and winning the Calder, But 2-3 years down the road, it may be Lafreniere and Byfield that pass him. And that's something that if you're a general manager going up to make a pick, you have to take that into consideration as well. It's not that easy. High-end passing ability, according to one scouting report from a game I was reading. Quick reads. So he reads the play very, very well. And it's about anticipating, not reacting. It is frustrating when you're watching, and it's usually defensemen you'll notice this with, where it's like, man, you really need to get rid of that puck before you did, but they react to what's happening rather than anticipating and thinking ahead. Being a step or two ahead of the other team is important, and it sounds like Stutzle's play is very smart. He plays the game very, very smartly, and he is, seeing the ice very, very well, and I know that sounds like a very odd terminology. Well, of course they see the ice well, but just being able to read the play and go, okay, I need to throw it here, okay, I can't throw it there, that kind of thing. And apparently, much like every other top-notch prospect we're going to look at out of this draft, very hard to handle one-on-one. So if he's in, there's one defender back, good luck. Because his puck handling is fantastic. His shooting accuracy is pretty darn solid. Apparently that's his strongest quality. And if you think he's going to be a center, he's a good shooter, he may very well surprise some people. I have a funny feeling he goes top 3. I don't know about number 1. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted before Byfield, just with everything I've read and with everything that's been going on. And the excitement around Stutzle has gone up. It really has. And so Draisaitl being the highest drafted German, that may no longer be the case. Stutzle may go earlier than Draisaitl did. And that's going to be interesting to watch when we get around to the draft in whenever it happens. I guess it could happen in October. But, yeah, honestly, he looks like an excellent prospect. Should be very, very good. And if his skating, if he improves that to a level equal to a Lafreniere, he might end up being the best guy in the draft. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think he ends up in Detroit? Because that's, again, when I'm doing these prospects, the first 7 that I'm going to do, I'll be wearing a jersey of a team that I think ends up probably drafting him, or it would fit. And for me, this fits. Him in Detroit, that'd be a pretty solid addition for them. And yes, it would suck if they didn't end up getting number 1, and if they didn't draft Lafreniere, but not a bad consolation prize. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.